on your cameras. We love to see your faces so that we're talking to a real group of people and not just squares. And then just go ahead and put on mute just because, of course, we know life happens. There's dog barking in the back. There's coworkers that are saying, hey, Amanda. And then go ahead and pop in the chat where you're from, just to get an idea. If you want to put your email address in there too, you can, just in case anybody else wants to chat with you. Later on, if you say something incredibly amazing and somebody says, my goodness, I want to know that person. I want to connect with them. So feel free. Thank you, Amanda. You're on it today. I'm loving it. So this is Museum Minds. We're so excited. Let me introduce myself really quickly. I'm Beth Housewart. You can see right there from Inspired Impact. Rainey, do you just want to tell us your name and where you're from?
Yes, I'm Rainey Robison. I'm in Laramie, Wyoming, and my company is Neptune Sugar. It's a marketing agency specifically focused on, sorry, people are entering the room as I'm talking.
That's okay. That's okay. We can introduce later too, more if we need to.
Specifically focused on arts and culture organizations, but my content is certainly related to any sort of related organizations like nonprofits and museums and so on. So thanks for being here today.
Awesome. So just a friendly reminder, we are going to record this session. We have lots of folks that have signed up but can't make it today, or they're traveling or different things like that. So we're going to go ahead and press record. You'll probably get a notification. And yes, we made this slide because we didn't want to forget, because that's just part of it. All righty, let's see. Rainey, you all set on that one? Awesome, perfect. All right, so let's get started. What is Museum Minds? Museum Minds is the brainchild of Rainey and I. Oh my gosh, we're so excited for it. And you'll notice if you haven't met me before, you haven't met Rainey before, we have energy. We think we're fun people. We like to laugh. We like to do some kooky things, but also we are serious people too. And we like to help add value to the industry. We like to do lots of really cool things. So as we have been working in our industries, we started to realize people are asking us questions. And they're saying like, hey, what about this? And what about that? And can you tell me a little bit more about this? And we started to think that it would be amazing if we could give these answers to everybody, because everybody could benefit from the answers of these individual questions that we have coming into our inbox. We also know that creating this really cool collaborative of friends, museum professionals, not just in the children's museum world like me, and not just in the art gallery world like Rainey, but knowing that in so many of those museum spaces, a lot of the concepts overlap. Or we can push each other's understanding of what a museum is by presenting the opposite side from a different museum realm. So that's why we wanted to bring everybody together into the same space, because really amazing things happen when you have museum friends, because they're just good people, right? Right? I think. All right, so that's what Museum Minds is. We're going to meet monthly. Everybody's always invited. It's always going to be free, just a cool networking opportunity for all of us to be together. We're going to get started with just 5 to 10 minutes of housekeeping, no dusting included, just intros, fun, telling you the agenda of what's up. And then we're going to do these really cool, like micro learning opportunities, 25, 30 minutes-ish of some sort of content every single month. Rainey and I had this conversation and we said, remember back during COVID times? Sorry, not all good, but one of the good things that did come out was that we have these little opportunities to learn in 30 minutes or less. and people would throw out content just to stay relevant. And we felt like we kind of missed that. Like, how could I just be inspired in a quick 25 to 30 minutes once a month? So we wanted to include that. So there's always going to be a little bit of content that happens. Today, we're talking about collaboration. How appropriate, right? Museum Minds Collaborative. First topic, collaboration. Yes. So that's happening today. Then we're having an intermission because sometimes in Zoom calls, we need intermissions, right? They get kind of long and we need a chance to get some fresh coffee or things like that. 1 to 2 minutes, really not that long. But also a great opportunity that if all you did want to come for was the learning section, you can pop off. But I'm telling you, if you do, you're going to miss out. Because the second part is the fun part. It's when we make friends and we ask questions and we have a little chat and things like that. So I did send out an email ahead of time asking everybody to prep their questions because we would hate for it to be super quiet and not have anything to talk about, because I know that we all love to talk. Or maybe I'm just talking for myself. All right, I also took down sticky notes here on my desk with all of the questions that you asked during registration. So a lot of those are here too, and hopefully some will be answered in the presentation. But if they're not, we're going to go ahead and follow up with you later too. All right. So yes, thank you, Rainey. If you haven't introduced yourself already in the chat, go ahead and do it. I see some of my friends. Oh my gosh, Eric, it's so good to see you. Scott, hey. Catherine, hey. I'm going to talk with you tomorrow. James, it's good to see you. I'm glad that you're here. And a couple other folks too, and newbies. I love new friends. It's great. All right, so we did a tiny little bit of an intro, but just to give you a little bit of backstory about who we are, who are these people? Rainey and I met up in like a business incubator. We both run our own independent businesses that help museums out and things like that. But we also realized that we're talking to the same people and we have same ideas about lots of things. So I'm Beth Houseward. I run Inspired Impact. I'm a museum consultant, and I also do coaching for nonprofits. I've been in the industry about 25 years, specifically in the children's museums world, as well as a couple years dabbling in science museums and environmental centers. But it's been tons and tons of fun. And I just love to see new museums grow. I work with a lot of emerging museums or museums that are reinventing themselves or changing. So Rainey, do you have more intro?
No, I introduced myself before this slide. I forgot it was supposed to happen now. So no, but again, I'm really excited to have everyone here and have these conversations.
Awesome. Also understand, this is our first time. This is the first meetup. We're kind of nervous because there's so many people in our room right now. This is so fun. So not only are you going to see a little bit of nerves, but you're also going to see like how incredibly giddy we are to have you all here, which is part of our personality. So, all right, so let's dive in to the topic. Oh, wait, I forgot one thing. We've been doing all the talking. One of the things I want you to do is not only introduce yourself over in the chat, but tell us what's today's question of the day. Tell us what your favorite ice cream flavor is, because that's going to help us know each other so much better on a totally different level, right? I am a butter pecan person. Okay. Rocky Road. Oh, Amanda and Michael, you guys are both Rocky Road people. Mint chocolate chip is my son's favorite ice cream. I'm loving that. It is kind of a weird mix, but I do love it. So, ooh, Tin Roof Sundae, Moose Tracks, yes. Frozen yogurt, oh my gosh. Tin Roof Sundae, in which we have to look up. Thanks, Scott. Thanks for that. I know Scott has a self-proclaimed webinar troublemaker from what he tells me. So we're looking forward to that. All right, so let's dive in. Now that we got ice cream, we know our people, this is good. All right, so let's talk a little bit about collaborations. In my time in the Children's Museum world, I partnered with a lot of different organizations, some of which were very like-minded, and some of which were community organizations that maybe weren't so much the same as a children's museum, but we made it work in lots and lots of different ways. So what I did over the course of the time that I was in a museum is I put together 5 quick questions. And if for some reason you were at the Emerging Museums track last year for ACM interactivity, this might look familiar. But I refreshed it and I changed it. So you're going to see some new things too. And we're giving you these 5 quick questions in a downloadable format at the end of the session too. So you can take notes if you want to, but also know that you're going to get our 5 quick questions and then another extra bonus too that I'll talk about in just a minute. All right, so 5 quick questions. Let's get started. First thing, how will this push your mission? Most of us work for nonprofits and we work under a mission statement. I 100% have always reiterated over and over and over to my teams that everything needs to focus on the mission. We can be approached by lots of really cool people in the community that want to partner with us, but if it has nothing to do with our mission, then why would we do it? Okay, so if you are one of those people who knows your mission by heart, put it in the chat so that we can compare. But also, this is a friendly reminder to all of you that if you do not know your mission and you have not memorized it, now is the time to do it. Because if you work in a nonprofit organization, your mission is always number 1, and it should be right there, ready to go at all times. Because that's what's going to drive you, 100%. If you're an emerging museum and you haven't created your mission statement yet, the chat is going to give you lots of really cool ideas about what your mission statement might be or how mission statements are created. So I've done a couple workshops about writing mission statements, but I bet you we're going to have a lot of really cool ones over here. All right, let's see. So will it push your mission? Here's a couple examples, because not only did I want to give you these questions, but show you it in action. Okay. So if you're creating a partnership that really pushes your mission, not only is it going to preview what your museum looks like or what your organization looks like, it's going to give some brand recognition, because if you're out and about in the community and you're doing your mission and you're creating that partnership that is pushing your mission, people aren't going to be wondering what it is you actually do. And it's also going to really give you a really nice voice and a clear visual. What you'll see here on the screen is a really fun Rigamajigs experience here with the Children's Museum of Central Oregon. I just featured them recently as a cool emerging museum. They partnered with a couple organizations in their community. They're not even open yet. They're an emerging museum, but they partnered with some like-minded folks in an effort to show off a real exhibit that's going to be happening inside their museum. So giving really good branding right here. I always encourage everyone, I guess this is a side note, if you're going to a festival, bring something to do. It's not just a marketing opportunity with papers and chatting. Bring something to do. If it makes noise or it flies in the air, bonus points. Because then people look at you. It's good. It's good, even though it's kind of embarrassing for introverts. But it also gives you a lot more time to talk to people because their kids are doing something or they're doing something. All right, side note. The second picture here is from the Children's Museum of Naples. And this is an opportunity that happened before they were open in a partnership with the libraries. It was Museum Without Walls, a great, great opportunity to take museum experiences out into the community and have that workshop again, showing what you do without having to have a building. So I know one of the questions, let's see, one of the questions was, how can I convince my administrators that partnerships are good? You see some of the answers right here in these pictures? I have two screens, so that's why I keep pointing that way. You're partnering up with like-minded named people already. You're partnering up with their mailing list. You're doing dual advertising. You're getting a bigger impact than you ever would have gotten alone. So there's just like one benefit. Question answered. All right, let's see. Let's move on to the next one. How will this build your audience? Oh, another question answered. How will this benefit our community? More people in your audience, more people in your community are going to know about who you are. But also, when considering these partnerships, this is a vital question. How will this build my audience? It might provide access for people to get to your organization or get to your museum. The top low quality photo up there is of some library passes that are available for free that people can check out from their local library in an effort to have 4 free admissions into the museum. It's a funded project. It costs the end user $0. But it's a partnership with the library. And at the time, it was also a partnership with the news media, like our local newspaper publisher. And it was a partnership and an initiative that was put together to help serve the underserved. There was no economic need to get into the museum at that point. If you had a library card, which you can get for free, you could check out this pass. So it was really great. It was providing access to those who are financially not ready, or sometimes just tire kickers who wanted to see what it was all about without having to pay. So that was one of the examples. The bottom example there is actually Great River Children's Museum. Again, an emerging museum, because those are the people I talk to a lot. And this was about understanding particular populations, because this was them doing outreach into a certain community in an effort to get feedback on what they wanted in their museum. What type of programs, what type of experiences. So they were able to partner with an already existing community in an after-school program to get that kind of feedback. So that kind of is two of those things, getting community feedback, but also understanding your population. Sometimes before your doors are even open, sometimes when your doors are open and you're trying to reinvent some of your programs. So these are really some fun ones here. All right, third question. We're halfway there. We have 10 more minutes. I'm trying to be really good about your time today. What is the role of this partner? This is hard sometimes. When people come to you and they know that you're the heavy hitter in town and you're the big gun in town and you have standing and you're the one that has the big mailing list, they want to be partners with you. But why would you want to be partners with them? I always would go back to, you have to have an equally beneficial partnership. Always. Both sides should always benefit from a partnership. Some way, somehow. So what you'll notice down at the bottom, I also said, don't worry, we'll send you a template. That's right. So because you came today, you're also going to get a community partnership agreement template. It's quick and easy, and I'll talk about it a little bit more at the end. But what it's going to do is going to give a clear objective about what this partnership is all about. It's going to define the roles of who is doing what. We need to have clear expectations from the beginning. Because if I assume that you're going to do this and then you don't, what do I have to fall back on? Nothing. Nothing. All right, so there was an answer to a question. There's a sticky here. Vetting potential partners. How do we vet potential partners? This is a great opportunity. You're going to talk to them. You're going to figure out what the role is. Do they fit the role? You've now vetted them and you've got to figure out what to do with them, but also having that clear understanding what you're both going to be bringing so that it can be equally beneficial. Let's see. Oh, there was a question about what if there's red flags? Doing a partnership agreement is going to precede possible red flags or inactivity because people know what they need to do from the beginning. You may even put something in that agreement about if nobody rises to the occasion and does what they're supposed to do, this is what's going to happen. So there's that. Guidelines on finding collaborators. Good one here. And we're giving you 5 quick questions today. All right, so we're burning through these answers. I'm loving it. Oh, I didn't tell you about those pictures because they're so stinking cute. I can't not talk about the kids, right? Okay, so this top picture right here, this is at the Central Wisconsin Children's Museum. They've been around for like a million trillion years. They're super tiny. They have an operating budget of $200,000. They're a super tiny, tiny museum. But in their town is KI Mobility. And KI Mobility makes wheelchairs. And they donated these amazing little tiny kid wheelchairs to the museum as part of a community partnership. This completely typical child gets to figure out and see what it feels like to ride in a wheelchair to get around. Like there's so much more to that I could go for days, but what a cool partnership, right? KI Mobility may have given them money, or they may have just given them materials. But the exponential impact that's happening from having little wheelchairs in a museum that actually fit children. So cool. So cool. The bottom picture is so fun. Oh my gosh. We had a really awesome pre-K outreach partnership. And you'll see when you get that partnership agreement, it is based on this pre-K outreach model that I did at my last museum. So you'll see something about coming out to schools to do outreach lessons and then kids coming to the museum for, things like that. So this is a representation of it because the kids got to come in and learn all kinds of really cool science things from our educator who kind of was like Miss Frizzle. She was fantastic. All right, so cute kids. Can't say no to them. All right, 4th quick question. Is everybody following me? Good. I see some head nods. I see some thumbs up. Okay, there might be some people multitasking, but I get it. It's a webinar. But come back. There's good stuff. All right. So is this financially beneficial? It's another question you have to ask yourself when thinking about partnerships. And a lot of times we go straight to, will they pay us? Do we need to pay them? Will this be lucrative for our bottom line? We're nonprofits, people. We can't not think about money, right? All right. But I put down at the bottom again, remember, financial benefit isn't always money to or from the partner. Here's a fun example with some things that you've already heard about. Over here, Museum Without Walls. That was a free program with the library. It transitioned into Access Pass, another free program with the library after the doors opened. Then there was the EBT and WIC memberships. That's the supplemental nutrition programs within our communities. All of these things built on each other based on collaboration and data, numbers goodness, attendance that could be gleaned and kept to show impact of the museum as a whole for grant purposes. So remember, using free programs and their numbers can qualify you for grants. They can sound fantastic to funders. People want to hear about how amazing you are. And if you have numbers to back it up, they're going to see your credibility. You've done your homework. You've added value to the community before you ever asked for anything back. That's sales. You have to add before you ask. So giving some cool things in an effort to qualify for some grants, this is such a beautiful thing. We did Museum Without Walls. Yeah, there was some funding involved to buy supplies. Then Access Pass, funded by the newspaper publisher. Fantastic, because we showed proof of concept with Museum Without Walls. Access Pass, we were seeing checkout rates in the zip codes that were underserved. There you go. Now, again, we're proving concept that we need to be able to provide for the underserved. That's when we got funding for EBT and WIC memberships. So one builds on the next based on data and keeping it and using it for that. So again, great partnerships can bring financial benefits in lots of different ways. Last question. Sometimes the most important. Does it feel right? Because when you're entering into any type of partnership, you need to trust your gut. I talked to a couple of different museums recently. I'm doing a really cool emerging museums interview series. And one of them said that they were approached to be on a ballot measure. And they were getting told all the right stuff. They were going to partner with the community. They were going to be part of the actual county and doing lots of really cool things. And everybody was so on board with it. And then once the measure didn't pass, which their gut said no from the beginning, so they didn't get on the measure. But when they realized the measure didn't pass, all of these things came out that they were like, you know what? We could feel that ahead of time, and we knew that it wasn't right. So we didn't do it. So I put these two really fun pictures on here. And again, I'm going to tell you a quick story because I have 2 minutes. I want you to feel this way about your partnerships. Okay, down at the bottom, that is a really, really cool sculpture that used to be at Young at Art Museum in Davie, Florida. So good. You have to love your people. You have to feel good about it. Your partnerships should not be a struggle, and you should be good about it. The top picture, that is a little 4-year-old who has made one of the pieces of art on that big collaborative art piece, where we partnered with Head Start to create that really, really cool collaborative art piece. And there are her adults taking her picture. Oh my gosh. The partnership was with Head Start because they came to us and said, hey, we want some free field trips. And I said, hey, I want some artwork. How can we make this mutually beneficial? What a cool experience. It felt so good. It felt so good. All right, so in recapping, because we're right at 29 past, here are your 5 quick questions. Again, you're going to get a download for this so that you don't have to take notes unless you want to. 5 quick questions. We went through them all here. All right, so here are your 2 things. While I'm talking about this, I want you to tell me, what was your biggest takeaway today? Put it in the chat. What did you learn? What was your takeaway from having this little micro learning session? Okay, Rainey just went ahead and put the link in for the Google document. That's those 5 quick questions. When you go to that Google document, just go up to the top where it says file, make a copy for yourself, and then it's going to be editable. If you just want to print it, you just say download. That's it. It's not editable in that link version. So just understand, if you want it to be editable online, you have to go ahead and say file, make a copy. All right, so what's your biggest takeaway today? Put it in the chat. And then tomorrow you're going to get an email from me, from us, with this community partnership agreement. It is quick and dirty. It's in Word. It's completely doable. It's easy, but it's completely impactful as well. You can do this. It's easy. This tiny Word document that's super simple that anybody can make is going to save your butt in the end. I'm just telling you, because you're going to have clear expectations from the beginning, and you're going to see and prove that this is equally beneficial. We're going to come in and do 5 30-minute outreach visits. You're going to provide us with 4 and 5-year-olds and pictures and all these things. These are the dates. This is how many kids are going to be there. This is how many classrooms I have to go to. On the second page, you're also going to have all of the contact information for all of the important people. Because who needs to wonder? If I have a red flag, if I have an issue, if I feel like I need to boot somebody as a partner, I have the main contact information here. If I forgot my materials in a classroom, I have the contact information for the administrator and possibly even the teacher to just say like, oh, hey, can I stop by tomorrow? Right? All right. Ooh, some good ones here. It's, oh yeah, community takeaways, community buy-in. It helps us stretch our impact 100%. There's nothing wrong and everything right about qualifying a relationship. I love that, Neil. Everything right. Yes, qualify. You're not a beggar. You don't, like, as much as you want them, they need you. So remember that. If somebody's coming into a partnership, they need you. You want them. Do you need them? You'll see. Oh, just having an agreement in the first place and outlining your expectations. Yeah, it can be that simple, right? It totally can be simple. All right, so we're at 2:30. I want you all to mark your calendars. There's a little QR code there if you want to register for next month's Museum Minds Collaborative Microlearning Session. It's going to be all about digital storytelling. Rainey is our marketing person, so we're going to take turns talking. You're not going to hear all of me all the time. And she's going to talk about how museum exhibits can have a life on social media. This looks like something that could be just for your marketing department, right? It's for everybody. You have to understand your floor team members, your coordinators, your managers, your directors, all of those people are part of the marketing department. They're the eyes on the floor that see the cool stuff happening. They're the people that tell the stories. So invite them so that they too can learn about how digital storytelling happens, and then they can start to identify how they fit into it. So some kind of fun stuff. Rainey, do you have other really cool things to say about the workshop coming up on April 10th at 2?
I do, if I can find the unmute button.
Okay.
And I wanted to reiterate what you're saying, Beth, that it's not just for art museums, but it will just be digging up a bunch of examples of how different organizations are approaching digital storytelling, whether it's podcasting or artist interviews or interactive exhibitions, things like that. So it should be a lot of fun, and I'm going to show a bunch of examples. So the idea is just to get a lot of inspiration about what other organizations can be doing.
Fantastic. Lovely.
Yep.
QR code there. Each and every month you'll have to register, just because we want to make sure that we're not filling everybody's inbox with like over and over, you've registered, and you really haven't. So we'll probably send one big email out to anybody forever and ever and ever who's ever registered, but then we'll send out those specific confirmations to the noobs or the returners. All right. If you can't wait until next time around, Rainey and I both are doing some really cool workshops that are coming up. I'm going to be doing Leveling Up Your Museum Visitor Engagement. It's a 1.5 hour, like, deeper workshop all about how to engage visitors. It's $49, super fun. Then Rainey's doing her workshop. Do you want to talk about it, lady?
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of think about this as those types of shows like, did you ever watch What Not to Wear or those makeover shows? That
Yes,
it's
they're
really
so fun.
about learning to work with what you have and trying to improve on your brand and, looking at what you're doing on social media, what fonts you're using, colors, things like that. So ways to elevate your brand and work with what you already have. And I wanted to emphasize too, Beth and I would really love to have you guys attend these workshops, but if you can't or it's not in your budget, we would still love to have you guys attend the free monthly meetings as well, because it's about networking and it's about having these conversations. So yeah.
Awesome. All right. 1 minute intermission. If you have to bounce, go ahead. But I'm telling you, there's more questions to answer from the stickies and also some good stuff over here too. If you want to save our contact information, that's cool. We're just going to take 1 minute here. Woo, and get a drink of water. We did consider putting in the movie theater clip of let's go out to the concession stand and have ourselves a little snack, because that's kind of fun. And we're kind of kooky. All right.
Next
Are we
time.
ready to dive
Next
in? Pardon me?
Next time.
Next time. We already have all these good things that we're thinking about for next time, right? All right. So that's the end of the slides. I'm going to stop sharing because now we get to talk with each other and have a lot of fun. One of the things that's extremely relevant, actually, let me restart. If you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand. Just use the icon at the bottom of the screen to raise your hand. It'll put you up in the queue so that we can call on you, things like that. With a decent number of people, sometimes it gets a little bit hard to just come off of mute. So raise your hand if you have a really pertinent question or a not so pertinent question, like, what's your favorite ice cream? So as you're thinking with those questions, one of the things that came up in the chat here, thank you so much, Catherine. Remember, she said, related lesson I learned from Beth at ACM Emerging Museum session. At this point, it can be wise to avoid the term MOU. Yes, that's why I'm giving you the partnership agreement. MOUs sometimes go to lawyers. That preschool partnership that we did, we had an MOU to begin with. And because we were partnering with a Head Start that was located in a school, they sent our MOU to the school lawyers and it turned into a whole thing. So that's why I always just switched it to partnership agreement, because there's nothing legally binding, but it's clear expectations from the beginning. So there's that. All right. Questions? Feel free to put them in the chat. Let me see. I told you I didn't want a Bueller moment. Scott, where's your question? I'm calling you out, sir.
Well, I wrote them down if you're ready for
Yes, please. Now is
it. Let me pull my notes.
good. Fantastic.
So I guess I'll start off with, I am not necessarily the person who's going out and seeking partnerships, but one of the things I think about all the time is when maybe different departments or different groups have different priorities for a potential partnership. Like if that partnership maybe aligns more to a fundraising side of things, or that aligns more to a visitor experience kind of thing, or an educational kind of thing. Like, do you have any advice or thoughts about how you're negotiating maybe cross-departmental priorities and where those two things maybe interact or conflict?
Yeah, absolutely. That's so good. Rainey, jump in if you have ideas on this one too. And honestly, anybody, if you have examples of how you've done this kind of stuff, feel free to bounce more ideas. This is the whole idea here. My thought process on that is every time that I did a really awesome partnership with the our local college and a couple preschools, and we did it on the day that we were closed. So like during our dark day. And that was across department because that's the day that all the exhibit maintenance was happening. So it was all about communication. Every single week, I sent out an email and I said, these are the areas in which the museum we're going to be using. Do you have any recommendations? Before the partnership even began, I asked them for a calendar of any major cleaning opportunities that were happening throughout the next 6 weeks so that I could move around. Like there has to always be that give and take. I'm not just going to go to them and say like, we're using the entire museum for 6 hours on our dark day, because that's not going to happen. But we had that initial meeting brainstorming with all the departments on how are we going to make this work for everybody, and then constant communication, because that definitely is how you can keep everybody happy, because everybody wants to be in the know. Even if it's just an email on Monday morning, you send out an email. Hey, friendly reminder, partnership's happening on Wednesday. They're going to be in these spaces. They arrive at 10:45 at the front door. Facilities, do you mind having the front door open? Exhibits, can you make sure that all the tools are picked up in the XYZ areas? You know, things like that. And then whatever can you give back to them? When we're done, I'll do an all call over the radio to make sure that everybody knows the kids are out of the building. You can go back to work as normal. So that was one of mine. I think it's pretty good. All right, what are some other questions? I did have one. I'll look.
Yeah,
'cause I-
Neil is raising his hand.
Oh, Neil, good job. Come off mute. What's your question? Neil, we can't hear you, but did we see your
I think Neil is in the chat for you, Beth.
in the chat? Fantastic. I'm in silent mode today. How do we deal? I wasn't looking. I was looking at my other questions, right? How do we deal with unproductive or badly devised partnerships that we inherit? I worked at a museum that hosted an annual conference with a local organization, each year diminishing returns. We couldn't get out for a number of reasons. How do we negotiate a redo? Any suggestions anybody has is great, because my thought process behind this one is you have to bring the key players back to the table. And you have to say, here's the data that shows we're having diminishing returns. Can we talk a little bit more about how we can refocus? How can we make this equally beneficial for both of us? I think that's great. Bring them to the table. Have an honest conversation with it. If you're going into it again and again, expecting different returns and not changing, definition of insanity right there. So how's that sound? Good? Anybody else? We are a part of a forced partnership with our city council. Oh, Amanda, do you want to tell us more about that?
Well, it's more from our city council. So our Children's Museum's only been around for about 10 years, but prior to that, council have always been, why can't the museums do things more together? So I came around 7 years ago and connected with several representatives and was put in charge of making sure the museums all communicate together. I do quarterly meetings, let's get together, see what everybody's up to, that type of thing. But it is like pulling teeth to get our museums to interact together. It is like banging heads against a brick wall. And it is not fun at all. I don't like it. It is like my most time I'm not excited about.
Well, in my quick question to you, Amanda, too, is at your quarterly meetings, are you reporting out about what's going on? Are you devising new partnership opportunities? Are you gauging what the communication level is with
It's a
this?
combination. The
Okay.
idea is that how can we together, work in ways to enhance tourism or, visiting efforts within our city? How can we do things together? So we do a Museum Madness weekend in October where everybody has something special happening on the same day to incorporate. It goes over 5 days, kind of like a museum collaborative.
Mhm.
It's to keep everybody up to date, so there's not a lot of cross dating of special events. We don't want to be too competitive, but be able to kind of still bounce upon each other and what everybody's up to. And there are directors and museums that do work together, but then there's some that just don't want to be a part of the others. It's a very political group, I feel, is the best way to put it. Very political.
And I wonder too, like we talked earlier a little bit about identifying roles in these partnerships. Like, what if some of those partners that are just not having it, what if their role is a little bit different in that they're just providing mailing lists? They're just providing this, that, the other thing. Think about easy wins and like low-hanging fruit. Because like if
Right.
you have one success, you can ride that wave for a long time. Like it sounds like your museum day is pretty good. Do you always need
Yes.
to add extra things on, or can you capitalize on what's already happening in your museums
Yeah,
and just cross promote it?
Yeah, I'm usually the one that does all the funding and fundraises marketing for that weekend and does a lot. But
Yeah.
it's because of the fact that council now looks to me to make sure that there's some collaboration between the abundance of museums in our area. It's just one of those battles that they look and they're like, oh, Amanda can do that. No, Amanda doesn't want to do that. 6 years later.
It's okay to speak up and say there's too much, people. Like somebody's got to take a page. You know what I mean? Like there's too much. Or you have to just establish that understanding and clear and saying like, this is my capacity, right? There's only so much that can happen. Oh, any other suggestions for Amanda? Anybody? Well, good. Godspeed. Good luck, my friend. We can talk more about it too. I'll email you afterwards and see if we can help out. But one of the things I love James' comment in regards to the last thing we talked about, if it doesn't work for your other partner, it should be easy to change or drop. When we talked a little bit before about like if something's not working and you're tied into it, how do you renegotiate it? Maybe just opening up that conversation. They might say the same thing too and say like, hey, it's not working for me either. Can we be done? You don't know unless you ask, right? Yes, looking for a natural ending point as a reason to call for a meeting. Good, John. That's good, Scott. A forced partnership is not really beneficial at all, and in my opinion, not a true partnership. Very, very true, James. I agree. 100%. All right, let's see. Any other questions? Agreed. Yes. Let's see. Keeping things positive. How do we keep things positive? That was another thing here. My feedback on that one, clear communication, consistent and predictable communication. If they know that every single Monday you're giving them an update, they have something to look forward to. The random email that says, oh my gosh, I just saw XYZ happening today and it made me so glad we're partners. Period. Send. I want to feel like I'm doing something good, but that partner is not seeing what's going on. So at the end of the month, you might send a partnership quick email that says, hey, holy smokes, we set a new record on our access pass admissions of 500 people over the weekend. Thank you so much for that. I love being your partner. You know, something like that. Communication, communication, and fun celebrations. I always like that. All right, there was a question about what are some processes in creating collaborations? 5 quick questions, partnership agreements, things like that that we talked a little bit about today. And consistent communication. I think that's a big one. It really, really is. All right, let's see. Any other questions? Also, since we're all in the room, does anybody have questions that have nothing to do with community partnerships? You have a hive mind of amazing people right here, right now. Ask questions.
I'd like to hear just what some people's experiences have been in the past with partnerships too, because it sounds like some are forced, but does anyone have an example of one that went really, really well? Or anyone willing to share something like that?
Sure, I'll share one of my success stories. Many years ago, I was working for a local history museum, and one of the city council members had made the comment that he would rather give money to feed people than give money towards history. And so anytime somebody says something like that, there's going to be some conversations. And as we were talking it through, we actually had 3 gardens on our property that we were using for educational purposes. One was a Native American garden, one was a pioneer garden, and the third one was a world garden, because this was in Rochester, Minnesota with Mayo Clinic, and they were bringing in doctors and staff from all over the world. So as their kids are coming through on school tours, that became part of our education. So it's a much longer story, so I'll have to condense it down here. But in the end, we had expanded out our gardening considerably. We partnered with the local food bank. We were providing 5,000 pounds per year of produce for the food bank. We had people looking at our nonprofit as, wow, we never thought that they would be involved in something like that. So we got a lot of buzz out of it. We were trying to partner with chefs to create videos on how to use some of this more exotic produce for cooking, because everybody cooks out of a box. That unfortunately did not happen because the health department got involved and the food bank's kitchens weren't appropriate for that. And their director really didn't want to invest the time and effort to try and change that. But it certainly involved the museum, the food bank. We got funding from 2 medical nonprofit foundations, the local extension office. We were partnering with Master Gardeners, and it had so many other facets to it that were just wonderful, and certainly was really good. While we never got that city council member to ever give us funding, we certainly used it to get funding elsewhere.
Oh, I love that example, and such awesome outside the box thinking. That was so cool. And it really, like, what a great representation of hearing what they said and then blending your expertise and their want together to create that partnership. A lot of
It's
times
definitely,
Go ahead.
look at what your assets are. What are assets that you have that other partners can benefit from? And even though I could have looked at that from the very beginning and said, it's not really our thing, we should, it really, this actually got us a little bit further away from our mission, but it allowed us through funding to restore an education position, which allowed us to then fulfill our mission that way. But more importantly, we felt we were being good stewards of our resources and being a good community leader in that regard.
Oh, what a cool thing. That's awesome. That's awesome. And a lot of times I think that way too, of like, you don't want to create a new program to satisfy a partner, but what you guys did was you kind of resurrected a part of your exhibits that you wanted to refresh anyway. So yes, it was kind of a new program, but with a really cool lift to it. And then, like, I'm just thinking about also like all the really neat marketing opportunities that came with that, all of the amazing community impact that came with that. So good, so good. Does anybody else have any other great successes or troubles?
I have actually a really good partnership that we started 3 years ago with a petroleum company. Their employees were not happy with the global organization and what they were focusing on, and wanted to be able to do things more locally. And so I happened to be connected through them in other ways. And so they reached out and asked if they could do an event to fundraise for the Children's Museum. It started out as just a fishing tournament, and their employees did the 100% of the logistical work and everything.
Love.
In the first year, it started that. Second year, it switched to where I kind of did all the business operations side of it. And then, because it was growing so fast. We're now working on our 4th year, and we're over $700,000 of fundraising. And we're giving out about $100,000 in teacher grants now to teachers in the community. And giving out also districts STEAM kits across the full age frame. So it's because the employees wanted to do something local.
That is
So.
so cool. So cool. And I love that too, is that in the beginning, it was more about the mission of the partner in creating something, but you were just a financial beneficiary. And
Yes.
that's how the partnership started, is they just said like, hey, can we do something and donate you some money? Heck yeah, I'll take money. As a nonprofit, you're always looking for somebody to do a donation. But then it morphed so beautifully there, and now you're providing STEAM kits for kids and families, and like, how cool is that? That's
And
fantastic.
we've actually put a little board with that committee, the core group of committee members that came together, and they're kind of that board group that helps with the teacher grants and the kits that go out to the different school districts. So they kind of take lead on that giving part from on our perspective from the Children's Museum. They're our advising committee. So.
And you know what, that just made me think of something else too, like that question way back when about like, how do I convince admin that partnerships are good? Like, you're getting potential board members from big organizations that have tons of experience in local partnerships and a network of funders and donors or audience members. You know what I mean? Like, yet another reason why partnerships are so good, right? We have 2 more minutes. We have a little message in the chat. I'm just going to read it so that everybody can hear it. I've partnered with the schools and the libraries. Both were very positive. In fact, the school history classes have done some research projects for me, and they tie it into their English classes. It's a win-win. They get credit, and they are doing my homework for me. Awesome, Cindy. That's so good. That's so good. I love those kind of partnerships too, that you look at their expertise and you say like, hey, how can they work for me, but make it work together? I mean, I had a researcher come in from like University of Texas one time and do a bunch of observations in some of our spaces that had books in them, because she wanted to know more about how parents interact with children over literacy in an informal space. And then we were able to get all that feedback back to know if that book installation was actually working. And from that, we ended up putting books in every single exhibit within the entire museum, because it was great feedback from that researcher. Well, it's 3 o'clock. And we don't want to leave you guys hanging overtime on your next call or anything like that. I have to tell you, I'm so incredibly excited to see all of your faces. I know, it's so fun. I hope that you got some really great things from today, and that you'll join us next month for digital storytelling with Museum Minds. Invite your friends, for sure. We're going to send you an email tomorrow. It's going to have the link for 5 quick questions. It's also going to have a community partnership agreement that we talked about today. And of course, the link for next month so that you can be part of next month. Share it with all your friends. Rainey, what are your leaving messages?
I just thank you for being a part of the beginning of something that I think is going to be really great. I think the more people we can pull into these conversations, the more we can share about our best practices, and I'll do the best we can do after these conversations. So I hope again you'll join us next time when I'll be talking a lot more.
Right? Exactly. And feel free to always email us back and give us feedback. It's the first time, you know? So give us feedback. Tell us what you want to hear about. What are those like cross museum things that we all can gain benefits in hearing?
Yeah, we're
So-
open to topics to talk about. And we also will probably be bringing in guest speakers eventually as well. So keep an eye out for that.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, everybody have a wonderful Wednesday. It's been great seeing you all, and we will see you next month.
Thanks, everyone.